All right, we're good?
Yep.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd obviously like to welcome Paul Brake and introduce myself. I know this is kind of an odd way to meet for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm Lee Collick. I'm a supervisor of the Water and Sewer Department. I've been a WROK employee for 22 years, so it's nice.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you. Pleasure.
As well, did we want to go around real quick and do a...
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm the next square on my screen. So I'm Tom Michaud, the board's legal counsel.
Okay. Hi, Tom.
And I'm Terry Gerlich from SCI. We're responsible for the investment management program.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Terry.
Brett, did you want to go next?
Hey there, Paul. Brett Nelson from the Police Department, Vice Chairman of the board.
Pleasure to meet
Nice
you.
to meet
you. Kyle and Kim, I'm sure you guys have met by this point.
Yes.
That covers everyone, correct?
Yes.
This is Hayes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
Okay, that said, I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Friday, June 5th, 2020 Retirement System Board of Trustees meeting. Called to order at 8:07 a.m. One is public comment, which there is none. Two is request that the board approve the agenda for June 5th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Move.
Brett moves.
Support. Oh,
Kyle supports. All in favor? Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Number three is request that the board approve the minutes for May 8th, 2020. I'm just going to go ahead and make the motion, and then if somebody wants to raise it for a second. Okay, Brett, second. I'll repeat that for Lisa's benefit. So I made the motion, Brett second.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We're going to go ahead and move to number 6 and 7 for legal. I'm going to turn it over to Tom. Tom, you have no audio.
Thank you. Under legal, the first 4 items, the Robbins Geller report, I would request that the board simply receive and file that at this point.
I'll make a motion to receive and file.
Support.
Okay, that was support by Paul. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Kim's an aye.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, the next 2 items are part of our series of updates that we've been providing over the last couple of months about the different changes that are being introduced both on the federal and the state level. One of the things that we've noticed in the last couple months is the actual exchange of information and documents, and the requirements of having to sign documents when you can't actually touch the piece of paper and hand it to someone else directly. So we've put the first one is electronic signature is our first memo. Really just for your information, a lot of people are really familiar with how you can sign things electronically. Others, we're trying to give a little bit of input and guidance on on resources to facilitate actually getting the job done and actually signing documents when necessary. The second one is the CARES Act update. This is the second part of our original update. As we've talked about before, the legislation is now building in additional flexibility under the circumstances in the financial situation right now. They're allowing people to take distributions without penalties, provided they meet certain requirements. So we outlined some of those requirements, in these memos. I have to say that, this is more for your information because most systems, this is more geared toward 401k plans, 457 plans. I'll stop rolling out IRS regulations, but numbers. I want you to make sure you're aware of it. So when you hear things in the news about, the IRS changing the rules for distributions, that you can have a point of reference that more likely than not, it's the CARES Act, the Secure Act, and you probably have a memo from our office that gives you the executive summary on how that works. So those are really the two informational items that I have for you, is this signature in the CARES Act memo, but would be happy to answer any questions you have on that topic or others. Otherwise, it's simply a receive and file both of those memos.
Sounds good. Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Tom? I'm going to go ahead and make the motion to receive and file. Is there a second? Brett seconds. Did you say you also wanted to be here for 7?
Yeah. So if, since that motion passes, we want to go right to 7. This is for your information. Simply someone generously donated money, and it will be allocated to the retirement system. So just wanted to make sure that the pension board was aware of it. And, once again, that's a significant contribution toward the success of the future retirement benefits for your retirement system.
Absolutely. So on behalf of the board, obviously a big thank you. That is, that's incredible.
And that's all. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
That's a huge boost.
Yeah, no kidding.
Absolutely is.
Was there someone that brought that about? Is there any backstory? I don't want to, disclose the anonymity of the donor, but you're piquing my curiosity.
When someone offers you money at that number, you just say thank you.
Yeah, I'm always kind of curious. Sometimes it's spontaneous conversations. You know what I mean? That one thing leads to another. So I don't know. That's why I ask.
Feel free to encourage your family and friends to make similar contributions, is all I can ask.
Fair enough.
Sounds good. Thank you. I think we should go ahead and set the date for the next meeting. That's okay with everyone. So tentatively, we're looking at Monday, July 6th.
Is that date, and for anyone taking a long weekend, would that really be a good idea doing that on Monday following a holiday? I will be here, but I'm just throwing that out. It's a little ways off, and folks have been cooped up, and if someone ends up taking a long holiday weekend, rather than to reschedule this at the last minute. So.
Okay.
And this is Terry. I won't have numbers that early either, given the holiday weekend.
Maybe push it out to the Friday of that week. I would not do it on Monday of a commission meeting, but
Friday works well for me. We're talking about the 10th.
Friday the 10th?
okay.
That I would have had a wedding that day, except I had to cancel it because of COVID-19. So I'm available
Thank goodness.
on that day.
Best.
Do we know what the odds are that we're still meeting remotely at that point?
The executive order only covers through the end of this month.
So in all likelihood, we'll be live at that meeting. I think that's the week that I'm furloughed. So there's a chance that we'll be leaving town.
Okay.
But
Most boards, the initial discussion, if I could, Mr. Chairman, have been that, there has been preliminary discussions that maybe July and August will be somewhat of a hybrid. There will be maybe a open meeting, physically, the doors to the municipalities will be open, but that trustees will still have the opportunity to kind of call in remotely as well. And I think that's going to be more of an issue with service providers. I know some of the money managers and other investment consultants and other out of state, are really still considering limiting travel for their employees until, kind of phasing things in a little bit more. So that's the discussion that other boards have had, is that, maybe it's a hybrid. Some people show up, some people call in, and you work that format.
Okay. Kyle, does that mean that you would be available, or would you prefer to go to a different week?
No, I can, if I can get in remotely, then I can say, I think with confidence that I'll at least be able to Zoom in or call in if that's acceptable.
Okay.
And I don't want to have to kick it out to the next week, so I'm not even certain that we'll be leaving town, but I'm pretty sure it's my furlough week. So
Okay.
it's possible.
So thumbs up, Friday, July 10th, 8 a.m. Okay. Meeting is set. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
If you're leaving. Okay, thanks. So I'm going to go back now to adjustments and applications. There are no adjustments. Applications, Craig T. Strauss of the Fire Department, Fire Local 431 Bargaining Unit, 25 years and 7 months. Purchase 3 years of service credit. Request to rescind his retirement application with the retirement date of June 18, 2020 as approved by the Fire Chief. Kevin Sutton of the Fire Department, Fire Local 431 Bargaining Unit, 28 years and 10 months of service credit. Request retirement date of June 17, 2020, eligible based on years of service and age. Kevin Sutton requests an estimated pension payment in accordance to the following policy. Effective January 1st, 2020, the board will allow for payment of an estimated pension payment for certain new retirees that make the election due to hardship. The estimated calculation will be calculated by taking 75% of the straight life calculation using average base wage only, years of service, and the applicable multipliers. Any under overpayments will be paid collected. This policy will be available to those employees with a retirement date of January 1, 2020 through August 31st, 2020. James Stalen of the Police Department, ROPOA Bargaining Unit, 31 years and 10 months, purchased 4.5 months of contract time of service credit. Request retirement date of June 25th, 2020. Eligible based on years of service / age. James Stalen requests an estimated pension payment in accordance to the previously outlined policy. Christopher Lippo of the Fire Department, Fire Local 431 Bargaining Unit, 25 years, 1 month, purchased 5 years of ordinance time of service credit. Request retirement date of June 28th, 2020, eligible based on years of service / age. Andrew R. Blevins of the Fire Department, Fire Local 431 Bargaining Unit, service credit. Request retirement date of June 30th, 2020, eligible based on years of service / age. There are no retirement benefits. Was the additional information, that was only documentation, right? I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the applications as listed. Is there a second? Second by Brett. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Terry, I'm going to turn it over to you for investments. You have no audio at this point, Terry.
How about now? There we go. Okay.
Perfect.
I'm going to attempt to share my screen. I just need to open up with a couple caveats. If you hear heavy breathing, there's nothing going on here. It's just my golden retriever has come in to join the meeting. So, all right, let's see what we've got. Screen, share the screen. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Terrific. Okay. Well, I'll be fairly brief today. It's just obviously the 1 month update. It was a good month, as you can see. Started the month at $140.5 million, had a gain of $5.7 million, leaving us at $146.2 million. So we're clawing our way back from the damage earlier in the year. Obviously, there's still more to go. As you can see, year to date, still at a loss, but encouraging signs so far with the markets. And interestingly, I don't know if you recall when I was talking about past meetings, the market's a discounting mechanism, and saying that a lot of times they'll price in the bad news, before the bad news gets better. And I referred back to the recessions. Often when unemployment's at its worst, you can see the markets rallying. Well, today we're expecting to see unemployment numbers that'll put us at a higher unemployment rate than we were in the Great Depression. So that'll may be the new bottom here, and yet don't be surprised if we see the market continue to rally from here. as investors are looking forward. Encouragingly, though, you look at the 1 year number, and we're up a little over 6% on the 1 year basis. Of course, we've had 9.1 million in withdrawals, but in terms of investment gains, about a little over 6%. So while still shy of the actuarial requirement, all things considered, not a bad place to be. Kind of puts things in context here. And there's been a lot of volatility, but on a 1 year basis, maybe the damage looks a little more in context and maybe not quite so scary. Go to the next page here. You can see the returns for the month, up about 4% on a net basis, ahead of the benchmark. So again, clawing back the absolute and relative shortfalls from earlier in the year when investors panicked and had a flight to safety. As you can see, looking at the green lines, the equities as a total asset class up about 5%, and led again by the U.S. Markets, but the non-U.S. markets not too far behind. As you can see, the large cap U.S. portfolio, which is indexed, up 4.7%. Small cap has come back nicely. Again, much more ground to make up still, but up almost 9%. In the non-U.S. portfolio, up 4.2%. Managers doing a good job in the month. You can see they're doing well on a relative basis, as in the midst of this rebound, comfortably ahead of their benchmarks. Similarly, on the fixed income side, up 2.74%, which is not at all a bad return for bonds in a 1 month period. Core fixed income up just shy of 1%, but again, comfortably ahead of the benchmark. And really seeing the rebound in the areas that got hurt the worst. Emerging market debt, high yield bonds, and those areas that act more like equities in terms of volatility, and certainly took a hit in the first quarter. Really coming back nicely here in emerging market debt, recouping about half of its loss so far, up about 7%, and high yield bonds up about 5%. So all encouraging to progress so far. Core property, that's only reported on a quarterly basis, so we're just showing a zero for the month. The 1% increase was just the first quarter return. We won't see that return till an updated return until probably around the third week of July. So hopefully we're up a little bit. I'd be happy if it's flat to up slightly. It should be the expectation. And then finally on the next page, structured credit, which timing was terrible in terms of when we got in, unfortunately. But again, this is a very volatile asset class. It's a fairly illiquid asset class. So when investors fled, pricing really got hurt. But the fundamentals are much better than the pricing suggests. Starting to see a recovery there, as we were hoping and expecting, up 3.7% for the month, and we look to continue to see that trajectory, we hope, going forward. And just a little bit of information, the private equity strategies, just starting to put money to work. Again, that's going to be a multi-year process, but you can see a little bit invested there, and I believe that was on the venture capital side. And the one good news is, and we obviously didn't know this when we made a commitment to private equity, but bad news can be good news sometimes. And the fact that markets and prices had been hit so hard means it's not a bad time to start putting money to work in private equity, because pricing is much more favorable than it would have been even 6 months ago. So again, this money will be put to work over the next few years, but we're seeing immediate opportunity in that space. So overall, encouraging signs here, at least for the month. And even now coming into June, we continue to see some encouraging signs. We're not saying we're out of the woods. Could we retest the bottom? Yes, but things do seem to be progressing on the medical front. Hopefully, we don't hit a second wave and the economy can continue to reopen, at least partially. It may be a new world for a while until there's a vaccine, but hopefully some better economic activity. And all the fiscal stimulus has been very helpful in supporting this economy, because even though we are looking at unemployment numbers like the Great Depression, personal income's actually been up because of the fairly generous unemployment benefits from the supplemental benefits from the CARE Act has really helped to keep people in their homes and able to purchase necessities for their families. So that's really helped to put a bottom under this as well. So the only thing you can say, again, without the crystal ball, is so far so good, and we're pleased with the month. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Stay safe, everyone.
You as well.
Too.
I'm gonna let me open this back up. I'm gonna make the motion to receive and file the information provided by Terry. Is there a second? Second by Brett. Julie, did you have anything else under other?
No, Tom covered it. Thank you.
Perfect. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn then. Second by Brett. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Tom.
Hi, I'm Oakland County Treasurer Andy Meisner, wishing my friends in Royal Oak good health and safety. For years, my office has helped families and small business through hard times. Our Financial Empowerment Center is available now to help with personal financial counseling or resources for your small business. Call us at 248-807-5287. Royal Oak, we've got your back.
Morning, everybody.
Hey, Brian. How are you?
Morning.
Doing well.
Morning.
Welcome. All right. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Friday, June 5th, 2020 Retiree Healthcare Investment Board meeting, called to order at 8:30 a.m. One is public comment, which there is none. Two, request that the board approve the agenda for June 5th, 2020. I'll make the motion. Is there a second? Second by Paul. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Request that the board approve the minutes for May 8th, 2020. I will make the motion. Is there a second? Brett seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? For investments, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Green. By the way, Brian, just a quick introduction. Paul Brake, our new city manager.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Looking
Nice
forward
meeting you.
to face-to-face at some point.
There you go.
So this will be brief, because good news is always quick to deliver. So I'm sure Terry mentioned a lot of this, just covering things from a retirement system standpoint, but May was another month of recovery. It's kind of interesting. It's a tale of two markets. I don't know if I've used this analogy before, but if you had a Rip Van Winkle moment and slept through the first half of 2020, you woke up and looked at where the equity markets were today, you kind of shrug your shoulders and say, okay, it hasn't really been a great year, but it hasn't been a terrible year. At the end of May, the S&P was still down 5%, so that's a pretty huge recovery considering we were down more than 20% at one point during the month of March, and through the end of March, we're down almost 20%. Today, the S&P is only down 2.8%. So you're seeing a tremendous recovery from an equity market standpoint. I was reading an article this morning. It seems really odd to say that this is positive news, but we only lost in this most recent ADP the payroll company publishes payroll data on a periodic basis. That's a supplement to, it's not the official unemployment number that you see quoted in the news. But the estimate for this most recent publication was a $9 million a 9 million job loss, and it was only 2.8. So the market's celebrating that only 2.8 million people lost their jobs in the last month rather than the 9 million expected. The irony of that is that's actually good news. I actually saw some other pieces in that payroll report where you're actually starting to see some growth in the labor market in areas like retail and in hospitality, which isn't a big surprise, right? Those were the first to cut in the pandemic as things were closed down, and those are really going to be the first to hire back. The other was really from a kind of a construction standpoint, is you're seeing those job losses pretty much cease almost completely. And I don't think that comes as a surprise to anyone, even driving around Royal Oak, just seeing things pick back up and construction really kick back into high gear. So I'm going to take you right to results. Through the end of May, it's interesting. You see this line graph plot through, and you've seen a nice recovery back up to $127.1 million. There were periods a month or two ago where you looked at the overall gain loss for the life of the retiree healthcare system. This is the test of looking back from a bonding standpoint. This gain loss number was 0, just because of what we saw in the month of March, in February and March from a loss standpoint, but now back well into positive territory, a little over $13 million in gains over the just over 3-year life of the trust going back to April of 2017. To give you an idea of just how powerful May was, if you look at this top line from a market value change standpoint. So beginning of May, we're at $122.8 million. During the month of May, we had about $38,000 in dividends and interest post to the accounts, but the market appreciation was just over $4.3 million in the month of May, to where we closed at just over 127.1, almost $127.2 million. So where did that come from? No real surprise here. So about a 3.6% gain for the month ahead of the policy index. So we're starting to see a little bit of a turn in relative performance here. Obviously, domestic equities were the strongest, a little over a 5.1% gain for the portfolio. That was led really by small cap stocks, as well as that AQR defensive portfolio, just because it owns a little bit smaller names in the large cap space. It doesn't own small cap stocks. It just owns more $250 billion companies that it owns $750 billion companies, the way that portfolio is constructed. So you're seeing a nice turn in results here from a number of managers. From an international equity standpoint, for the month, up about 3.8%. And that was really led by the Vontable Fund. It continues to be a market dominated by growth names rather than value names. So it's things like tech, consumer discretionary that are leading the way, rather than financials and more value-oriented sectors, but seeing some nice outperformance on an international equity standpoint from both Vontable on the developed market side and the Transamerica Fund on an emerging market side. From a fixed income standpoint, still positive news, a little bit more muted, but fixed income has been positive on a year-to-date basis. So you've seen a nice recovery out of the Baird portfolio. They are overweight to corporate credit. Everything in there is investment grade, so this is all really, really high quality stuff. But in the first quarter, if you had corporate bonds instead of treasury bonds, you underperformed. And the recovery we've seen so far here in April and May has been on the corporate side of the market, less so in terms of treasuries. The new addition that we had mentioned at the May meeting that we're making, and this was done in mid-June, was adding the Loomis High Income Fund. So we added an allocation to a dedicated high yield manager. So this is a manager buying below investment grade fixed income securities. Don't yet have a full month of performance because that was incepted in mid-June. You can run the math. We put $5 million into that fund in mid-June. It's worth just shy of 5.2. So that's about a 3.5% gain so far. So that's been a nice contributor. As we've mentioned, the rationale for adding that was throughout the pandemic, throughout the market downturn, spreads, or the difference between what you earn in high yield versus what you earn in treasuries, had increased pretty dramatically. And that comes just as the market telling us that there's greater risk out there. So when we bought this, the spreads were at about 7.5%. So if you bought a 10-year treasury that was paying you 1%, if you went out and bought a 10-year high yield bond, it should be paying you 8.5%. That's the difference between high yield. That spread is measuring the difference between what you would earn in high yield versus what you would earn in a comparable treasury bond. So that spread that was at about 7.5 is now down to about just over 5.5%. So you've seen, as the markets recovered, those spreads have narrowed, and that's going to continue to benefit the high yield part of the portfolio. Templeton, which is a global bond portfolio, a little bit more muted. They've mostly been impacted just because they have very little exposure to U.S. fixed income markets. And then finally, from a real estate and cash standpoint, real estate is going to continue to be zeros because this price is on a quarterly basis. So the next update we'll see out of this PRESA fund is going to be for the July meeting. I think from a real estate standpoint, it's a lot to be determined. I give you an example, in talking to, for example, folks at Loomis Sales. So their headquarters is in Boston. They've got 9 floors of a tower in downtown Boston. They expect they may be down to 3 by the time the entire pandemic is over with, just because their stay-at-home and work-from-home experiment has been very, very well received. So as a company, they're pushing more and giving employees more flexibility. On that flip side, there's a couple call centers that we've talked to that are tenants in different buildings that clients own. And they have to go from an 8x8 cubicle to something larger because they need to have more space for employees, more offices, more partitions. So, here in a simple office environment, you've got one example where a tenant is saying, I need 2/3 less space. And on the flip side, you've got a tenant saying, I need to, double my space just to be able to make sure that my employees can stay safe and follow CDC guidelines. So I think a lot there is kind of to be determined. We're seeing some encouraging signs from a labor market standpoint. So our expectation is, absent some failing from a science standpoint, these markets should continue to rally and continue to probably go higher. So outside of that, pretty quick, pretty brief on a June 5th morning, but I'll pause to see if there's any questions.
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to receive and file the information provided by Brian. Is there a second? Brett, seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Brings us to legal. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to receive and file the documentation that we went over in the last meeting regarding electronic signatures, Executive Order 2020-74. Is there a second? Second by Paul. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Julie, did you have anything under other on this one? Okay, Brian, we did set the date for the next meeting for Friday, July 10th.
That works. Perfect.
Sounds good. I will go ahead and make a motion to adjourn. Second by Brett. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thanks,
Very efficient, guys.
Thank you. Good
All right.
meeting.
Have a good one.
Thank you.